100 Children, 100 Stones by Candy Floss Consumer. Chapter 10. 21 Hours and 5 Days. Something hovers in the air the next morning. Her echo is abruptly very active as well. And even stranger, Naruto hadn't returned until very late, even missing dinner. He was still on her range when she passed out the previous evening, so Sakura isn't worried much. But this morning is odd, different in the fact that it is the first day that Zabuza's imminent return has weighed so heavily. If Sakura's gut has anything to say about it, it's that the missing nin, quite frankly, would be showing up today. Though Sakura watches as everyone at the table subtly rushes through breakfast, she doesn't comment on it. None of them seem very keen on talking about their quickness, and neither does Sakura. Her stomach is twisting nervously as it is, so much that she can barely swallow the now tasteless rice in her mouth. But she forces herself to keep eating anyway. She knows that she will need her strength for the upcoming battle. That's another thing, now. When she'd woken up earlier, the pain from her Lichtenberg figuren was all but gone. They've only been lightly stinging since. She doesn't know exactly why she no longer has to be in pain, but she doesn't question it. Rightly so, especially since it only ensures a higher chance of her surviving the next 24 hours. With Naruto down for the count, now it will only be the three of them protecting Tazuna. Sakura, Kakashi, and Sasuke, since he finally mastered the tree-walking exercise yesterday. Naruto may have also accomplished the feat, but he was out cold upstairs. The earliest they would be seeing the blonde was 11 or 12. Sakura trails a couple paces behind the group as they make their way towards the bridge. She has spread her sensory net as thin as it can go, encompassing the entire town around them and beyond. Sakura knows every person in about a 10-mile radius. She knows their intent and their skill with chakra. She can sense Amiya as she shadows them from the alleyways. The other Ashioto, too, are likely following, but they blend in with the other civilian signatures, so Sakura can only discern their presence by the sound of their footsteps. Sakura has never told Amiya she is a ninja, nor that she had been assigned a mission in Wave. Except experienced islanders have always had the ocean pulling at them, and Sakura is marked with figuren. Amiya will always know where Sakura is. Thanks to the Sakura's abilities as a sensor, she will always know where Amiya is as well. Sakura angles one of her hands towards a passing alley, keeping her thumb, pointer, and pinky fingers splayed up as she bends the others down. She won't know if Amiya sees or returns the gesture, but it doesn't matter. They are almost to the bridge, and it has already been an unusually cool morning, filled with mist. The mist at the bridge is different, and it parts as the chakra woven throughout it bids it to. Sakura has never been more thankful to be able to assign chakra signatures to bodies before. The workers are strewn about the bridge as if they're dead. They certainly look it, despite only being unconscious. Sakura's heart clenches a little as she recognizes one of them as the father of the ribbon kid. There is no time to think about it, though. Just as the mist dissipates, Zabuza and his accomplice are revealed. "Sakura, guard the bridge builder," Kakashi orders without looking at her. Sakura nods curtly, moving closer to Tazuna in a defensive position. "Hi, sensei," Sakura says as she does so. Zabuza's familiar leer twists his face, but it doesn't really scare Sakura anymore. The missing nin is not what has been haunting her nightmares. The roar of the ocean floods Sakura's ears as Zabuza speaks, but not enough to null her hearing. "So we meet again, copycat Kakashi," Zabuza drawls, leaning his sword outwards a bit. The shinobi is brimming with confidence, and the masked nin to his left echoes the sentiment with his relaxed posture. Kakashi doesn't tense, but his voice is hard when he speaks next. "So it would seem, Demon of the Mist Zabuza," her sensei returns with the other's own moniker. The atmosphere is tense. It is all Sakura can do to stay focused and alert in order to protect the builder. Sasuke is shivering in her peripherals. From fear or the cold, Sakura doesn't know. A wave from the sea below crashes against the bridge. Zabuza chuckles roughly, swinging his blade over his shoulder with a breath. "Ah, but that genin of yours! He's trembling," Zabuza points out, eyeing Sasuke with the predator's eyes. Sakura's heart seizes a bit. Every facade has a speck of truth, after all, and she still cares for the Uchiha. "None of us may die here," Sakura promises herself. Even though she knows that she will sacrifice herself in a heartbeat, it is simply a thought, not her word. Not her spoken word, anyway. Sasuke grins from his position next to Kakashi. "I am trembling. From excitement," Sasuke retorts, his voice serious. Sakura personally thinks it is a ridiculous line, and a waste of breath. No one would believe that one-liner, but Zabuza plays along with it anyways. "Oh, then you wouldn't mind battling my apprentice while I fight your sensei. Haku," Zabuza intones, and his accomplice flickers towards Sasuke, stepping just a few feet away. "Of course, we won't have to fight if you just give us the bridge builder," Zabuza taunts, his eyes on Tazuna. Sakura tenses, her glare deepening as she lifts the kunai in her hand higher. "Sorry, but no," Kakashi refuses. "Sasuke, occupy Haku for the moment." The mist immediately thickens as Kakashi denies the offer, and Haku and Sasuke immediately get wrapped up in their own fight. Sakura wraps the area around Tazuna and herself with layers of genjutsu. The innermost layer causes her figuren to grow slightly sensitive as Sakura calls upon her memory of the final rites. The difference is how she amps up the feeling of being struck with angry lightning, multiplying it until she no longer can. The effect is so strong that Sakura can almost taste the ozone on her tongue. This genjutsu is subtle, but simple. If Zabuza realizes it's there, he can easily disperse it. Instead, a howl of agony comes a second later, along with a pop and a splash. Sakura's eyes snap to Zabuza as the man winces, the memory from his clone returning. Sakura hadn't even felt the water clone dismantle the outer layers. She shivers. The missing nin has cast his eyes on Sakura now, narrowing them menacingly. "So the useless little flower has thorns now, does she?" Zabuza remarks sarcastically. He takes a step forward before disappearing from Sakura's sight. Her heart rate amps up, sea wind howling in her ears as she faintly hears the clash of blades. She blinks, seeing Kakashi pushing away Zabuza's broadsword with a single kunai. Now, Zabuza, why don't we keep this as a fight against adults?" Kakashi says with a saccharine undertone as he grits his teeth. Sakura would be annoyed if the comet wasn't something that saved her life. Zabuza grins, his demonic qualities glinting in his pitch-black eyes. "All right then, Kakashi, between men." Zabuza's voice is purposefully demeaning, but Sakura refuses to rise to the bait. She has to protect Tazuna. He cannot keep his promise to her if he dies. And the bridge will be built, no matter what Gato wants. Kakashi and Zabuza quickly disappear into the mist, swiftly obscured from Sakura's sight. Sakura edges down the bridge, nudging Tazuna to move backwards with her. They eventually make it off the bridge and to a tree nearby. The trunk would cover Tazuna's back for the most part, and Sakura instructs Tazuna to keep close to it for that purpose. Sakura cannot see any of the battle due to the mist, so she does not even attempt to. She does not have superior eyesight, nor does she know any jutsu to clear a Kirinin's mist, so she glances at Tazuna, an order on the tip of her tongue. "Don't interrupt me unless we're both about to be attacked, all right?" Sakura demands quickly, already forming her hands into a full Tora hand sign. Tazuna frantically nods. Sakura closes her eyes, and the world plunges into gray and white. Things are shaded in with however much chakra they have. White for live, active chakra, and black for something with no chakra. The bridge is made out of wood, so the little chakra it still possesses allows for Sakura to easily discern between it and the battling shinobi. Most importantly, her team. Sasuke and Zabuza's accomplice, Haku, are hazed out on her sensory map, however, almost as if they are covered by a wall of ice. Luckily, Sakura has no difficulty spotting Kakashi and Zabuza. She leaves the genjutsu work around herself and the bridge builder to her echo. "Sensei! 12 o'clock, right at you!" Sakura calls. There is no other option since they don't have a Yamanaka on their team. No mind speak. She just has to hope that the voice distortion genjutsu she had woven earlier would do the trick. Another clang rings out, but Sakura should not open her eyes to see. She probably wouldn't be able to see anything besides, so she ignores the urge and continues to follow Zabuza's signature. Even if her sensei has the Sharingan, he cannot mimic what he can't see. Her understanding of the dojutsu may be limited, but she at least knows that much. Sakura sees the tenketsu in Kakashi's hand begin to light up, but Zabuza is behind him this time. Sakura has faith that her sensei can at least defend against, or, at best, avoid the strike. But faith has never prevented injury or even death on the battlefield. She saw how that course of action ended with the two demon brothers. She refuses to see it again. 9 o'clock, starboard! Sakura calls out again. This time Zabuza roars in anger after his attack is blocked again. Sakura has to force her body to stop shaking. "I thought this was a battle for adults, copycat!" Zabuza huffs out, the air current suggesting that the shinobi had swung his broadsword in a wide arc. Sakura winces, having forgotten that little tidbit. She felt a little bad for throwing away Kakashi's protection like that, but they were all shinobi. Rarely did they ever play clean by sticking to promises like that. Her sensei's reply, while cheery, still bites like a viper. "When genin graduate, they are already considered an adult. And don't you remember, Zabuza? Shinobi don't play fair," Kakashi announces, his voice cracking out like lightning from the mist. Sakura watches as Zabuza's signature rapidly gains a large distance between it and her sensei, most likely shoved away with great force. Suddenly, the hairs on the back of her neck prick up with a chill. She immediately pulls herself out of her mind and opens her eyes to see a Naruto clone, of all things. It quits picking at its nose when it notices that she's staring at it. Sakura wrinkles her own nose. She didn't want to have seen that. The Naruto clone skips closer, ignoring her genjutsu completely. Clearly it's because either Naruto or this clone of his is as dumb as a brick, Sakura thinks privately. It's a safety measure, considering there is no time to ponder the perks of allies when they're in the middle of battle. "Hey, Sakura-chan! Main-me is finishing up beating up some goons that Gato guy sent over to old man Tazuna's house. Then he'll be right over," the Naruto clone informs her, sliding his hands into his pockets and bouncing on his heels innocently. Sakura grabs its arm before it can disperse. She tries to do it gently so that it doesn't poof away. When it doesn't, Sakura considers her attempt a success. "Help me protect the bridge builder. You're all I've got for backup right now," Sakura orders, jabbing her thumb back at Tazuna. The Naruto clone brightens before nodding, taking a defensive stance in front of Tazuna's left, while Sakura maintains the right. It's not long before the real Naruto comes running in loudly. Sakura doesn't even need to check her sensory net to know that he's arrived. "Go help Sasuke, Naruto!" Kakashi yells after throwing Zabuza off once more. They've all been fighting for about 10 minutes at this point, and Sakura knows that the battle has to come to an end soon. "You got it, Sensei!" Naruto shouts, barreling towards what Sakura can now clearly see as actual walls of ice. At least she wasn't off by that description. Sakura keeps her eye on the bridge, trusting the Naruto clone to help her guard Tazuna. Not even 2 minutes after Naruto idiotically runs into the walls of ice, they shatter and fall. Sakura's heart, on the other hand, ironically, freezes. The scene that she hadn't been able to see before is revealed. Haku stands, his face bleeding, and the mask cracked half off. Naruto is hunched over, his enraged face shadowed. And behind it all, Sasuke is lying on the ground, Senbon poking out of his body like a morbid porcupine. And belatedly, Sakura realizes that she is crying. Go to him, Sakura, Tazuna says, voice quiet. Sakura doesn't acknowledge the release of her duty verbally. She runs to where Sasuke lays on the ground, hearing nothing but the roar and crash of the ocean, and the lightning it commands. She shakily presses her hand to his neck, feeling nothing. No heartbeat, yet for some reason, her mind overlays Zabuza's body over her teammates. Her sensory net flashes weakly at her. With Senbon placements, one can induce the impression of death. Sakura stands, shooting upwards. The movement shocks both Naruto and Haku, and they both stop. Heedless of the dangerous red chakra that pours off of the blonde, Sakura places a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "He's fine, Naruto," she whispers to him, not seeing the scene physically before her, but rather 100 or so civilian-level chakra signatures led by one pathetically weak one. And then to Haku. "Something tells me that Gato has never intended to pay you for killing the bridge builder." Sakura looks up at Haku, making eye contact with the boy. Haku stills as she does. He takes an abortive step forward. "Are you a censor?" Haku asks her, breathless. Sakura nods in reply. She turns her head to the left, where the mouth of the bridge lies a little beyond Kakashi and Zabuza. "Gato and his thugs should be here any minute." "Nee," she looks back at Haku. "Grab yours while I grab mine?" Sakura suggests. Haku shows her a frail grin before nodding. "I'll fix your teammate up after all of this is over," Haku promises. Sakura pats Naruto on the shoulder before leaving. "Thank you for helping Sasuke, Naruto." She wraps her arms around Naruto quickly, ignoring the burn. "Watch over him for me, okay? It's like with Zabuza back in the forest. I promise that our precious friend is not dead." With that, Sakura runs off, bolting into the mist after Kakashi. However, when she does so, she misses the fragile expression that has overtaken Naruto's face. "I promise," Naruto says, voice barely passing between his lips. And then, a growl unheard by all but the blonde Jinchuriki himself. "That's a good friend you've got there, Gaki." Sakura and Haku barely reach their senseis in time. Kakashi is clearly about to gear up a final move before Sakura catches his arm, while Haku bodily pulls Zabuza backward. Neither of the Jonin has the opportunity to speak before a scrawny man comes parading onto the bridge, clearly visible in the late morning sun. Sakura knows immediately that the midget is Gato. "So you couldn't have died like good shinobi after completing your task?" the tyrant asks condescendingly, before glancing at Tazuna's position behind the Naruto clone. "And you couldn't even kill him at that! Good thing I didn't intend to pay you!" Gato spits with a triumphant sneer. Anger rolls off of Haku and Zabuza in waves, but none of it compares to the burning fury that concentrates on a white-hot core within Sakura. Gato keeps talking, but Sakura neither hears nor wants to hear his disgusting voice. She doesn't notice that those around her have backed away. No. Instead, her mind is filled with the vision of 227 stones. Instead, her ears are deafened by the howling of the sea and the hiss of lightning. She walks forward slowly, just slow enough for Gato to realize what she's doing, for the vermin to order some of his thugs to protect him. It doesn't matter. A single wave tumbles into the underside of the bridge. "I delivered their names, but still your anger churns," Sakura intones. Her chakra gathers up and then scatters into the air, tiny, invisible spheres that glide into each of the thugs' throats. Most importantly, Gato's throat. They do not notice it, being as chakra blind as they are. Lightning flashes before Sakura's eyes as she finishes her plea to the ocean, begging for an act of revenge she cannot perform on her own. I will deliver you their killers, and then you may return. Sakura's voice hangs in the air for a silent moment. Then, as if amplified by the heavens, the blessings of the island's rites floods the bridge site. Sakura's chakra attracts all of the ambient water in the air, and as much from the sea as necessary. It gathers in their throats and chokes them. Unseeing as she is, Sakura drowns them all as they stand safe on dry land. She means to kill them, too. But someone barrels into her, knocking her out of the haze she has fallen into. The water disperses, and her chakra returns. But Gato and his goons are as good as dead anyway. We'll finish them, Zabuza declares. He and Haku spring into action, but Sakura barely notices. Instead, her attention focuses on the blonde hair in her face and the furnace-hot arms that hold her close. She hadn't realized it before, but she is shivering, violently, as if there is no warmth in her left. A shade of her father speaks to Sakura in the silence of her mind. The anger of your heart is warm now, my blossom, but anger chills any who live in their grave derived of it. It is both a memory and a reminder. Sakura's echo has faded, for now, overtaxed from managing the genjutsu. She shivers again, slowly hugging Naruto back. Sakura has buried the dead, that much is true. But she has yet to kill a human. Something cold and slimy drips down her back, and she was just about to kill over 100 of them. Immoral, evil thugs they may have been, but human nonetheless. This time, her grandmother's voice whispers to her. The ocean's fury gathers over time. When islanders are slain, and if there is a vessel, she will give her punishment on those responsible. Sakura remembers, feeling so tired. Sorrow colors her tone as she mumbles the rest out loud, soaking Naruto's jumpsuit with tears. Even if they are children, even if they are marked.